Like, how did you become Poet Laureate of Pomona?
A lot of work,
Okay.
a lot of work, a lot of constant, consistent work. Lion Like Mind State, my venue here, our symbol, is a circle. So our thing is consistent, conscious, and bold. The circle is the consistency. It's not an actual perfect circle. It's supposed to be messed up because life is messed up. There are bumps in the road. Consistent, conscious, bold. I did it just by being consistent and conscious on how I'm doing it, and bold in my actual steps, taking risks, um, asking for a position, putting things in place, and then setting it off, setting a fire, guarding it till it blazes, and then people see it. A lot of other people are saying, "Hey, can you please give me permission to set this fire? Hey, can you please help me, guard the fire?" No, I'll set it and I'll guard it. Come see
Okay.
it. Okay, cool. Now recognize what it is.
Got you.
Now recognize what it is. The poet laureate, my daughter was born. I hadn't done any poetry for 3 years. I was, taking my career seriously as a civil engineering inspector. Getting. I was going a lot. I travel a lot, so there was no way at that time mentally that I could have done the things that I do now.
Mhm.
But I was learning. Um, I forgot where I was going with that one at the time.
Being a Poet Laureate.
Oh yeah, so a lot of other galleries closed shop after I left. Yeah. Well, there were a lot of clubs coming into Pomona, so it was a lot of push out. But then also, like when I left, like I was like an anchor in a community. There were a couple galleries left that were like an anchor, and I was like a kind of a radical anchor. I did things differently, and my gallery wasn't. We were in the art colony, but not on the art walk, so we were off of it. So everything I did was off my own power. It wasn't because of the art walk was doing something.
Yeah.
If my building was full, it's because my building was full on a Tuesday night, a Wednesday night, a Thursday night, a Friday night, Monday night. If my building's popping, it's because we're popping, not because the art gallery's popping. You know what I mean? But we're there. Um, so they closed up, and I was thinking of coming back. I was thinking about opening another gallery. I tried once before already, and some of the other gallery owners were like, come on back. Some of the artists were like, come on back. And then some of um, like city council and different people, like they still knew me. They're like, "Well, what are you doing now? Like, we're still here. Like, come here." It's like, well, if I come there, it needs to be something legit that we come to. You know what I mean? That we actually set off. Otherwise, it's just spinning the wheel, and I'm not interested in spinning the wheel whatsoever. So I thought about it for a year. I moved back into the area. I thought about it, and then I started talking to a friend. I was like, you know what? I did some research. I was like, I don't think we've ever had a poet laureate. The only poet laureate that I had um, reached to and knew personally at the time was Luis Rodriguez. He came out to Dim Lights a few times. So that was my introduction to that seat. I kind of already knew what it was, but that was my first time seeing it in action, seeing someone. And like, oh, that's obtainable.
Okay.
I can see that.
Mhm.
Oh, you can ask for that. That's official. So I was like, yo, we ever had a poet laureate? It's like, I don't think so. Let's make it happen. So we talked about it for a long time, and he had some conversations with others, and I had conversations with others, and then the library, and then city council, and then the mayor, and then it died for 2 years. It died. There was no talk. There
Got
are
you.
no
It
returns.
just disappeared.
It just disappeared. The whole
Interesting.
talk. All
Interesting.
right. And then a year later, the librarian commissioner called me up, who was actually someone that I gave a poetry workshop to before my daughter was born at my art gallery.
Okay.
She called me up. Hey, I heard it. I heard something about this. I hadn't talked to her about it. I heard something about this. Are you still interested in doing it? The Poet Laureate program. Sure. Well, I'm the commissioner now. Oh, so I'm gonna talk to them about that. Can you write a proposal? It took another 18 months. So it took time.
Hmm.
It took consistency. It took consciousness.
Hmm.
And it took boldness. And then finally, I was inaugurated the Poet Laureate of Pomona. It was an actual vote, a community vote, and it was me and two other artists, two other poets who were 20 years my senior. So there was some ageism going on. I almost
Okay.
lost,
Interesting.
but I was also the most active. My actual work, I don't want to say as an insult, but it kind of buries, my actual the machine Pomona in itself. What I did there kind of solidifies me as what I am doing,
Mhm.
because I'm not just doing poetry and bringing poetry together and putting poetry in places. I'm putting us in places. I'm doing things we haven't done. I'm putting us in places we haven't been. I'm putting art in places it hasn't been, and I'm bringing all of it together at once. That's kind of my specialty. It's not just poetry.
Got you.
So I bring a community together.
Got you. Poetry's kinda just like the head of it.
Poetry is the head.
Mhm.
Poetry is the head, the mouth, and the head.
Got you.
Hmm.
I think you mentioned that there was, like, other venues or clubs coming in, and then everyone was getting pushed out at the time.
Correct.
What was going on with those clubs?
Actual clubs, music clubs.
Okay, and it was just
Yes,
pushing out the
it's an
art.
art colony.
Mm,
That was all.
gotcha. And so what's some of the roles and responsibilities of a poet laureate, or are there?
Yes.
There.
Well, as the advantage for me as being the first and kind of writing the program, like I got to write my own. But I also looked at other poet laureate programs that are already running. There's a history of poet laureate programs been
Mhm.
going on. So one is you are like the prime minister of poetry. You know what I mean?
Cool.
You are what is the word? To encourage the spoken art and put it in places where it hasn't been. So like to visit schools, um, to hold for mine specifically within 2 years, I had to hold three workshops at the library, three free workshops. I held like six other workshops outside of that. Um, put on a few open mics. You write some commission poems for things that happen in the city. So, if like for me, there was a Harriet Tubman statue that came into the city. I wrote a commission poem for that, and when they put it in the ground, I wrote another commission poem for it. There are big city days that happen. Like there is a thing called Unity Day Pomona. That was an inaugural day right after COVID. So I wrote a poem for that. I wrote a poem for MLK. I wrote a poem for Black History Month. I wrote a poem for different city events. If anyone dies, you can write a poem for that. There's a
Okay.
new mayor, a poem for that. It's the actual city, seat. And also, I wrote the city's first official poem.
Cool.
Yeah,
And you're basically kinda like an artistic representative of the city.
absolutely. Yes. And during the time, I am a city official. Yeah, you are.
Oh.
It's the actual city position.